525-7000. That's 800-525-7000. Give us a call. Let's head back to the phones to Oklahoma. Fair, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm well, thank you.
So, my question was that I've been in the stock for the past 4 or 5 years and doing a lot of research, and everybody keeps on talking about like a huge bubble that's been forming pretty much since 2008, and everything's overpriced, and that there's going to be a big market collapse. And I was just going to see about y'all's ideas about it and your word and stuff like that, see what y'all thought about it.
Yeah, sure, Fair. Thanks for asking. Basically, when you talk about a stock market crash, you're talking about a rapid, often unanticipated drop in stock prices. It can be the result of an economic crisis. It can be the result of a speculative bubble. We've certainly seen that happen a number of times. It could be a catastrophic event. So there's a variety of contributors to these crashes that are induced by panic selling that depresses prices even further as they're crashing. Some of the most kind of memorable crashes, if you will, would be certainly the 1929 Great Depression, Black Monday of '87. Then, of course, you have the speculative bubble related to the .com in 2001. You have the financial crisis of 2008, which was really an economic crisis. There was, real problems systemically in our banking system with regard to lending practices and so forth. And then obviously you have an event-driven crash, if you will, in 2020 with COVID and the fact that the nations of the world were about to shut down their economies. But using that one as a good example, if you would have gotten out because as soon as that was announced, you anticipated that there was going to be a crash. Well, yeah, we had the fastest, decline to a bear market in history. We also had, just a few months later, the fastest and most rapid ascension back to a bull market than we've ever seen. And so that's why even though you know that the market works in cycles, boom and bust, and you've got bear markets and bull markets, you look at the overall trend over the last 100 years, and despite all of those crashes that I mentioned, the market has still been, with a properly diversified portfolio, the very best place to be if you have the right time horizon. I mean, the S&P 500, has generated, 9+% returns annually over the last 100 years. Now, that includes all of those, crashes and bubbles that I mentioned, but as long as you didn't sell out, when those were happening, and you stayed the course because you had the right time horizon, the right investment mix for your age and risk tolerance, you did well. And so I think that's the idea here, especially in light, and what we're going through right now is a great reminder, Fair, of why we invest, because inflation erodes our purchasing power. So your money, what God has entrusted to you, is losing value every day in terms of purchasing power because things are getting more expensive. And so one of the ways you offset that is by having an investment strategy. Now, every decade, every cycle has its issues. We certainly have ours now. They're different than the ones we've experienced previously. I mentioned one of them a moment ago, and that is, I think a debt crisis is plausible now, whereas, it wasn't 20 or 30 years ago, because we've mismanaged our federal budget, the deficit, the spending, the printing of money, all of the things that we've been doing, quantitative easing, and all of that has led to the situation we're in that we need to address. We've got time to do it. Again, we're still the largest and strongest economy in the world. But even though you might say, prices are overvalued, and we look at price to earnings ratios as one of the key drivers of that, how expensive are stocks versus the earnings that the companies are generating. Because remember, the stock market is nothing more than just a collection of companies that have real sales and earnings. And so you can absolutely see what is the price of these companies versus how much they're earning, and is it justified? And, right now you might say the S&P 500, that index that I mentioned earlier, is overvalued by maybe, 8% or so. But that, again, is just a part of the cycle. and shouldn't lead us, in my view, to exit the stock market and bond market, because where would you go with it? I mean, you put it under the mattress, you're going to lose value. You're going to put it into gold. Well, that's been more volatile and it has had less overall returns historically than a properly diversified stock and bond portfolio. So in my view, what we do is we say, yeah, we realize these things are cyclical. We don't try to time the market. We're in it for the long haul with the long view. And that's the very best way to build wealth. It has been for the last 100 years. I think it will be for the next 100. We're going to have challenges along the way. We need to show up at the polls and the ballot box and vote for leaders that understand God's design for economics and wealth creation, that human beings were created to be in the image of God, to be productive, and that economic expansion through our productivity is a good thing, and that creates a virtuous cycle that ultimately results in generosity back to the God who created us. But when we take that approach, I think it puts us in the right frame of mind. The key is don't get caught up in kind of the 24-hour news cycle, the financial media, second guessing, or having anxiety, because at the end of the day, it's about treasuring God above everything, trusting Him as our provider, but then being a wise steward. And I think that includes investments with the right time horizon and perspective. I hope that helps you, Fair. That's at least my take on it. We'll be right back. We are grateful to Chessman Wealth Strategies for their support of faith and finance. Their mission is to help clients make smart choices with their money so they can worry less, enjoy life, and ultimately become good stewards of the resources God has entrusted to them. ChessmanWealth.com. That's ChessmanWealth.com. The phone number is 214-572-2120. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
AFR, I'm Tim Watson.
Oh, no way that just happened.
Yeah, this radio is old, man.
Wait, you have Roku, don't you?
Yeah, but how's that gonna help us?
Dude, AFR's on Roku now.
Oh, seriously?
Yes, where's your remote? All right, here we go.
We're in the same.
You are a genius.
Oh, yeah. American Family Radio. Available on Apple and Android products, Amazon Alexa, and now available on Roku.
We are grateful for support from Sound Mind Investing in the Faith and Finance Program. For more than 30 years, they've been helping Christians reach their financial goals with step-by-step guidance for investors at every stage, from those just getting started to those getting ready for retirement. Through scriptural principles and practical suggestions, SMI offers financial wisdom for living well. More information, including the short video webinar on profit and peace of mind, no matter what's happening in the market, is available at soundmindinvesting.org.
Have you downloaded the FaithFi app yet? You need to do that today, because this is going to make your life easier. Yes, you can manage your money through the in-app envelope feature, but also plan out future goals. I want to buy a house in 5 years, and I'm on track to do that. Here's also what I like. You can connect with people around the country. It's like social media, but better. Ask a question, get an answer, and share what you're learning about money and investing. So why don't you grab your phone right now and download the FaithFi app?
Hi, I'm Matt Ayers, president of Wesley Biblical Seminary. Do you want to be prepared for ministry at an institution that you can trust? Wesley Biblical Seminary has been training trusted leaders for faithful churches for almost 50 years. In a nation where many denominations and theological institutions are caving to cultural pressure, Wesley Biblical Seminary is standing strong on God's truth. Earn your bachelor's or master's degree to equip you for faithful and fruitful ministry. Learn more at wbs.edu.
Hey, Greg, I need some advice.
Oh, what's up?
I'm really struggling with finding ways to cut back. With costs going up, especially in healthcare, what do you guys do?
We use CHM, Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's a health cost sharing ministry that's been sharing members' eligible medical bills for over 40 years. Sure helped us stick to our budget. Here's the website, chministries.org. CACHministries.org. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
I'm so thankful you've joined us today on Faith and Finance on American Family Radio. Coming up in our next segment, Jerry Boyer stops by. Friday is always a good day because we get to hear from Jerry, his thoughts on the market, to that. Jerry will weigh in on that. He'll also tell us about a meeting he had this week with Apple on behalf of American Family Association and the position they have in Apple proposing a shareholder resolution. What is it and what did they say? Well, Jerry will fill us in right around the corner. Let's head back to the phones, though. We've got perhaps room for one more question. 800-525-7000. Let's head to Texas. Hi, Sean. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, so I was looking for some information on paying off my house early as opposed to taking it a little bit farther. I have $200,000 in a savings account in our retirement, and then I have about $70,000 left on the house. And then my wife also has school loans that is a little over $100,000, and I have a paid for truck, and my wife's car is about $20,000. So just looking to see. Actually, I'm sorry. The house is $20,000. The house and car is $20,000 to pay off. And I was just looking for your thoughts on whether to pay off the house or the car first.
Got it. Okay, yeah, a couple of questions for you. Did you say, so you said the house and car are $20,000, not $70,000?
Yes, so the house is $20,000 individually, so $20,000 for the car, and then $20,000 to pay off the house.
Got it. Okay, great. And how far off is retirement?
So I am about to hit 40, and my wife is 40. So we've got a little ways before retirement.
Yeah, sounds like it. And where would you, if you paid off either the house or the car, where would those funds come from?
Those funds would come from liquid accounts from my savings account.
Okay. And what do you have in savings currently?
So I have about $70,000 in savings.
Ah, got it. All right. And so that's just in a high yield savings account or a CD or something?
No, so that is actually just in our bank savings account. I've been holding off on putting it into a CD, thinking that we might pay off one or the other and start stocking money to one of the other debts and just really take over the debt and then start putting it into more savings.
Yeah, very good. I like the way you're thinking. What are the interest rates on the house and the car?
So the house is $499 and the car is 5 flat.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and I imagine the house payment is bigger than the car payment?
It is. We also have escrow into that, so it is.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I mean, I like this plan a lot. What percent of your income are you putting into retirement currently?
Currently, we're putting about 5 to 10%.
Okay.
And taking all of our income taxes that we get back, we're putting that into retirement as well.
Okay, how are you doing?
Roth IRA.
IRA, okay, yeah, very good.
I have a Roth IRA, and then $200,000 in our company is in an ESOP, and I have a little over $200,000 in that.
Okay, great. And then, very good. Do you have anything left over at the end of the month currently after all the bills are paid?
Yes, our account currently grows at about $1,000 to $1,500 a month.
Okay, got it. All right, yeah, so, I mean, you're in a great position here. I mean, you've got time on your side. I mean, let's say you're 25 years out from retirement, and I don't mean that just because the world says when we get to 65, we should stop and, walk the beach and pick up shells. Nothing wrong with the beach, but, God's calling doesn't have an expiration date. But we do want to prepare for that season where you may be redirected to God's next assignment, and that may or may not involve paid work. So we want to make sure you can cover your bills. There also may come a day where you can't work. So I love the fact that you're prioritizing, a couple of things. Number one is being debt-free completely at some point and saving appropriately. I think given the amount that you have in savings, really we only need 3 to 6 months expenses, in reserves. You're not earning that, and you're paying 5% on both the house and the car. So I guess what I'm wondering is, even if you had 6 months worth of expenses, what would that be roughly?
6 months would, so we're going about $2,000. We live pretty modestly, about $2,000, sometimes $2,500 per month.
Okay, yeah. Great. So, I mean, if you looked at 6 months expenses on $2,500, that's only $15,000. You got $70,000 here. So, if you pay off the house and the car, that's a guaranteed 5% return. And I realize you could get that now in a high yield savings, but you're not going to get that potentially a couple of years from now. I mean, that's why a 1-year CD offers 5.5. A 5-year CD today is only 4.5. So, rates are going to be headed down at some point. So I'm wondering about you guys paying off both. I mean, if you only paid off one, I'd pay off the house because the interest rates are essentially the same, and that just frees up more money on a monthly basis, not including the taxes and insurance that you can redirect toward. I would bump up your retirement to 10 to 15% as opposed to 5 to 10, and then I'd fully fund those Roths, and then I'd start attacking school loans as the next thing. Are you looking for any kind of loan forgiveness on that? Are you a part of any programs that will offer that, or are you going to end up paying the whole thing likely?
Yeah, so my wife is in the health field, and she is looking for a loan forgiveness. About $50,000 is what we're looking at in the beginning. She's got about a little over $100,000 in school debt.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so I would accelerate that debt payoff up to what you're expecting in loan forgiveness and really just attack that. But again, with that guaranteed return equal to the interest you're getting rid of by paying it off, and because you're living so modestly, you have so much surplus, and you're not earning that on the $70K, I'd say let's wipe out the house and the car, redirect all that money, some of it toward, all of it could go toward the student loans up to $50,000, because you've already got a surplus you were generating before you paid these off, and you could use that to either accelerate your retirement contributions or your giving, or both. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're in a great position. You guys could be, completely debt free except for the school loans, and on your way to doing that. You guys are living modestly. That's great. You're going to be in a great position for retirement to do whatever the Lord leads you to next. And, on top of all of that, you're still going to have quite a bit of margin every month. So I think this is a great spot to be in, Sean. I hope that was helpful, but listen, kudos to you for following God's principles and managing money so wisely, and that's put you in a really solid position here today. Hey, thanks for being on the program. We appreciate you calling. Well, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Jerry Boyer will stop by, and we'll also try to get to a few more questions before the end of the broadcast. This is Faith and Finance on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West, and we'll be right back. Our thanks to Certified Kingdom Advisor Wade Chessman, President and Wealth Advisor, and his team at Chessman Wealth Strategies in Dallas for their support of Faith and Finance. Their goal is to help their clients expand their understanding of biblical financial principles and how to implement them. The website is chessmanwealth.com. The phone number is 214-572-2120. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Weekday mornings at 8 Central, Pastor Jeff Shreve offers real truth for today.
I'm the pastor of First Baptist Church in Texarkana, Texas, and the founder of From His Heart Ministries.
The world around us is rapidly changing, but God and His truth will never change.
I may be the host of the show, but I want God's Word and His truth to be the star of the show.
Join Pastor Jeff Shreve each weekday morning at 8 Central for Real Truth for Today on American Family Radio.
Absolutely free. We know you've learned to be suspicious of those words, but really, you can get biblical financial wisdom delivered to your inbox each week absolutely free. Articles, videos, podcasts, and special offers on biblical resources. Nearly 60,000 people receive our free weekly wisdom email, and you can too.
Create your free FaithFi account by going to faithfi.com and click sign up to begin receiving weekly wisdom in your inbox.
We are grateful for support from Eventide Investments on the Faith and Finance program. Eventide's approach to values-based investing is grounded in the belief that humankind was created in the image of God, with intrinsic dignity, value, and worth. Eventide calls this investing that makes the world rejoice. More information is available at eventideinvestments.com. That's eventideinvestments.com.
So good to have you with us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. It's Friday, which means Jerry Boyer stops by with his market analysis and commentary. Jerry, in just a moment, I mentioned to our listeners today, you're going to update us on a meeting you had this week with Apple, representing American Family Association. But let's start with the economy. We saw this week that the 10-year Treasury yield crossed 5%. For the first time since 2007. Jerry, what's the significance of that?
Well, the significance is that means that people are more apt to take money out of the stock market and put it into some kind of interest-bearing account. I mean, I hear you taking calls from people, and they're asking, what should I do? And, a lot of your counsel is pointing out that now the interest rate return is actually pretty good. Remember, for so many years, it's like, well, just understand, if you're putting something in a cash account of whatever form or a CD, it's almost like a safe deposit box. But now you can actually get a return on that. So that means that people pull money out of the stock market because they can get let's say, I won't say riskless. There's nothing riskless in this world except God's promises, but a close to riskless return and a fairly decent one. So that's why there are certain sectors of the economy that are interest rate sensitive, and that sounds like economist talk. But all it means is there's certain kinds of investments that tend to respond when there's a change in interest rates. So for instance, this week, the Fed chairman said, well, I don't think interest rates are too high. And so what happened is investors said, oh, well, he doesn't think interest rates are too high, so he sure doesn't seem like he's going to cut them anytime soon, and he might actually raise them. And so the interest rate sensitive things went down. Stocks are interest rate sensitive. Why? Well, for the reason I just gave. People say, why take the risk in the stock market when I can just go into a CD? Some parts of the stock market are more interest rate sensitive than others. Like, for instance, growth stocks, technology and growth stocks. They're more like a promise way out in the future that we're going to grow. Therefore, they're more speculative. Therefore, they depend more on a lot of easy money in the system. So when the Fed's pulling money out of the system, then they tend to go down more. And the NASDAQ went down more. Real estate, people can buy real estate directly, or they can buy things called REITs, which are funds which own real estate. That's an interest rate sensitive sector because they borrow a lot of money in order to buy that real estate. So that went down even more. So the things that are most interest rate sensitive, the things that depend on easy money from the Fed, that's another way of saying the same thing, those went down more than the other things. So that's basic. Once again, we're in the world where the central bank is in charge of markets rather than the economy and regular investors being in charge of markets. And the central bank is right. We haven't beat inflation. It's wrong in thinking the way to beat inflation is to slow down growth. Human productivity is in the center of what it is to be in the image of God. The way that fighting human productivity is not the way out of our mess. We're not going to Fed our way out of this mess. Yep. We're not going to central plan our way. We're not going to expert our way out of this mess. The only way to get out of this mess is to be highly economically productive, which means pro-growth policies and a work ethic that goes along with it.
Very well said, Jerry. To that end, though, Atlanta Fed president was out today saying he doesn't envision interest rate cuts happening until perhaps late 2024. If that was the case, Jerry, what would be the implications in your view for the economy?
Basically, it's him seconding what Powell said. Yeah. So we're not going to cut until late. Powell's saying interest rates aren't too high, and just understand that all the cutting through the technical thing. Basically, the Fed can only really do one of two things. It can print money and put it into markets. And burn the money. I mean, doesn't literally burn it because it's not paper, but it's deleted from their accounts. That's all of this talk about interest rates is really a roundabout way of saying it's either creating money and pumping it into more contractionary. The Fed,
Deal.
what the Atlanta Fed chair said, and what the whole chair said, it basically amounts to the same thing. We're also going to be more contractionary because they think they need to slow down the economy to beat inflation. That's the God-out economics of John Maynard Keynes. So that's what we're with this dual mandate. They go back and forth between their conflicting mandates, and that's where this instability comes from.
Yeah, but the way that hits the average American is the longer this goes on, that means the more people that just can't wait to buy a house anymore, and therefore they're buying that house at, you know, an 8% interest rate, which happened this week. The more people that are experiencing all of the effects of these high interest rates, which is really going to, you know, put the squeeze on the family, right?
Oh, absolutely. If we're indebted and Americans are highly indebted, I suspect that in general, your audience is less indebted than the rest of America. If your word is being taken seriously, but still, we're an indebted society. So this is an interesting point. The more indebted the society is, the more our whole nation is an interest rate sensitive sector. Remember I talked about how there's interest rate sensitive sectors, you know, real estate, et cetera, but some sectors aren't so interest rate sensitive. But if we're highly indebted, if we've got a bunch of credit card debt, if we've got mortgages that are straining at our ability, if we've got school loans or whatever, that makes the